right, let's get started. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to one more masterclass, and a very distinctive one at that, being offered by the Women Leadership Forum of Asia. I'm Dr. Cerebral Banerjee. For those of you joining for the first time, I'm the founder of the Learning and Organizational Development Roundtable and the Women Leadership Forum of Asia, which we started about 8 years ago. It's been an incredible journey since, and I'm really excited to be able to have you all on board on another series that we actually start with what we have today, which is basically having distinctive organizations describe their distinctive D&I journeys to you under the aegis of what we're calling diversity and inclusion stories. If I look back at where we started about 8 years ago, the purpose of why we created the Women Leadership Forum of Asia was to be able to inspire more organizations to be able to build diverse and inclusive cultures. We had lots of enthusiasts who started coming in, and slowly over a period of time, what we saw was an excitement to be able to bring in diverse talent. And so the representation of diverse talent is what we actually inspired in phase one. As more and more organizations have seen the value of this, and I think the last 18 months and the disruptions that we're seeing in the environment have actually, in a way, been an accelerator for many organizations to look at the value of being able to build diverse talent into their workforce. And in this context, it's been amazing to be able to see some of the journeys, especially as organizations that started early have already started manifesting in the form of the work that they've done in the area of creating environments and climates of inclusion. And so what you're going to see in these series is each time we'll present to you organizations and individuals who have incredible stories to be able to share with you as they work towards creating and sort of marinating the environment, preparing the environment to be able to integrate diverse talent. So I'm going to start at the start by being able to introduce you to the Women Leadership Forum of Asia. We built this to be able to help organizations across, whether large, mid-sized, small-sized organizations, academic institutions, NGOs, the government, very widespread of members to be able to drive their diversity and inclusion agendas, basically share practices, share best practices and next practices. When we started, there weren't a lot of organizations that were already doing this. So there was a need for a small community that kind of got together to be able to basically exchange ideas and inspire each other with the kind of work that we were doing. Our forum caters to all kinds of diversities. And so we're looking at basically, we've helped organizations to be able to learn about and learn from each other around gender, around persons with disabilities, finding ways to be able to find, various kind of diverse talent and integrate and create environments for being able to enable LGBTQ to be able to come out, to also give these people equal opportunities, socio-cognitive diversities in terms of being able to basically deliberately bring in diverse thought process and cognitive abilities into the organization so that you're bringing in thought diversity in the journey of being able to create very engaging, very vibrant organizations that have people who have the ability to bring in different perspectives and help the organization solve wicked problems. Our ideology has been around 4Cs, which is to be able to build conviction for this journey, courage for organizations and individuals to be able to continue on this journey, and to be able to support the diverse talent to truly manifest their brilliance. Competence to be able to constantly build capability to enable these agendas to succeed, and commitment to be able to shape a better society. The Women Leadership Forum of Asia, has a very, very wide network. We have over 17,000 members, and that's how it has grown over the last 8 years. The Best D&I Practices of Asia Seminar and Awards, the study that we conducted last year, also included many organizations who've been inspired through the work of the WLFA to be able to start on these journeys and manifest the many benefits of being able to build diverse and inclusive cultures. The Women Leadership Forum of Asia, for those of you who don't know enough about it, we have the D&I Academy, which works with a lot of organizations to be able to build capabilities around D&I, also for D&I professionals and for those who are running D&I councils and ERGs. Our large network also brings in many perspectives on masterclasses, including the one that you're experiencing right now. So we have masterclasses and debates and discussions. We did lots of work around a lot of challenges that came up during the last 18 months during the pandemic. And we've also created some very powerful, thought-provoking masterclasses and discussions that I'm sure have benefited the members in very significant ways to be able to go back and do more constructive work around being able to build truly diverse and inclusive cultures within their organizations. Here is the very stellar governing council, and we're very proud of everyone who's on board, inspiring us to keep going with the work that we do, where we believe we're trying to influence organizations and all kinds of organizations, and particularly the kind of organizations which would not have normally thought about this agenda as meaningful to their journeys, and our jobs being to constantly inspire every organization, whether a startup, whether a small size organization, a mid-size organization, across industries, to feel, to see and experience the benefit of being able to build diversity inclusion, provide equal opportunities, and integrate all segments of the society, especially the groups that have been marginalized. So Dr. Akhil Basrai, most of you would know him. He's very iconic in the HR industry. Adil Malia, who runs the firm. Rajeshwar, who teaches at ISB and runs the Power Excellence organization. Rajesh Kamath, some of you attend his Wisdom Sutra classes with us, from Chanakya Consulting. That's me, and I'm the founder CEO of Capstone Consulting. Manu Wadhwa of Sony Pictures. There's Rajesh Padmanabhan of Talavi. Dr. Ritu Anand, who plays a very stellar role, especially with the Women Leadership Forum of Asia. She's the Chief Leadership and Diversity Officer of Tata Consulting Services, and we're extremely proud to be able to have her on board, and her stewardship, especially her passion for diversity and inclusion. Bosco, who basically is a leadership polarities expert, runs conscious development. Deborah Home, who operates out of the UK and is playing a very stellar role on many aspects of what we're trying to do with the Women Leadership Forum of Asia in its next avatar. And of course, Gautam Chenani, who's been a very long-standing professional from the Aditya Birla Group, now with the JSW Group, and again plays a very stellar unfold various programs to inspire and keep inspiring different segments of society to build diversity and inclusion into their strategy. I'm going to take this opportunity to be able to present to all of you, and I'm going to take this moment to be able to quickly welcome all those who are joining us. There's a very large group which is joining us today from LinkedIn Live, because this is being streamed on LinkedIn Live as well. So both on Zoom and LinkedIn Live, welcome one more time, and we're delighted that you decided to spend your Thursday afternoon with us. We are presenting a very stellar, offering. We've been asked to do this so many times because we've constantly helped organizations to be able to find diverse talent. One of the challenges that organizations who are members and otherwise kept coming back and telling us is that they're interested in embarking on this journey, but there is a perception of a gap in terms of the availability of talent. And I'm hoping with the stories that you're going to hear in this series of diversity and inclusion stories, you will see how a lot of these organizations are surmounting this perception that certain kinds of talent, like specially abled and all that, is not actually available in the market. So one of the services that the very learned and the very insightful Governing Council of the Women Leadership Forum of Asia got together and decided to be able to offer to the community is a service to be able to find diverse and inclusive talent. And so I'm delighted to be able to present on behalf of all of them, diversity and balance hiring. That's what we'd like to call this. It's called DB hiring, diversity and balance hiring. And the balance is to do with the kind of equity that we want to unfold within your organizations. We want to take away from the stigma of being a diversity candidate. We instead want you to be able to find the most suitable candidates who are also diverse candidates. And so basically, the Women Leadership Forum of Asia presents the diversity balance hiring. We have already and always been involved in terms of being able to help the community to be able to find their talent. We've done the NGO commune a couple of times, which is to be able to invite and create connections between individuals and NGOs who are working with these kind of diverse talent which people find difficult to find. We led something last year, which was on the back of a lot of women having lost their jobs during the pandemic, which is to be able to announce a returning program for women who've taken a break from because of filial and family and other reasons, perhaps to be for childbirth, and invited them back to a whole host of opportunities that we managed to be able to open up to them, including offering them a boot camp for returning women so that we could help them, prepare them to be able to come back with a vengeance. So our purpose of being able to offer you diversity and balance hiring is to be able to remove the perception that you cannot find diverse or suitable diverse talent. We have a pipeline of best-in-class diverse talent. We also groom and mentor the talent before we offer them to you. And we basically own their success within your organization and through coaching and other mechanisms. And so we want you to know that this is available across the board. You can reach out to us to be able to fulfill your requirements on gender diversity hiring. You can keep experimenting and opening up new positions for gender hiring, for gender diversity hiring by reaching out to us. We have outreaches which allow us to be able to get you the best of talent from the LGBTQ community, specially able talent, and we help organizations through socio-cognitive diversity hiring. And so do feel free to be able to reach out to the Women Leadership Forum of Asia to be able to help you with your diversity hiring, to be able to get best-in-class individuals who are very, very equal to everyone else within your organization. And we will provide them all the support, all the ramps to be able to become productive within the organization. So coaching, returnee programs, boot camps for individuals who you may hire through the diversity and balance hiring mechanism. So this is a shout out to everyone who has helped put this together. And, we have the might of a very powerful governing council. And, with the kind of resources that we have available to us through the Women Leadership Forum of Asia, we're confident that we can do a great job of being able to help you meet, and build your diverse talent pipelines and help you meet your needs on being able to bring in diverse talent within your organization. So we never, ever want a situation where you're committed to bringing in diverse talent, but you can't find it. We want to be there right as a bridge between you and the diverse talent so that they're able to find meaningful careers with all of you. And I think with that, if we can get the, I want the team to be able to post on the chat your requisition form from the diversity and balance hiring team. So you can start right now if you want to be able to reach out to us with your diversity hiring needs. And do reach out to the team who will help you register if you want to be able to know more. So I think with that, let's get down to why it is that you logged in here today, which is you obviously want to be able to hear these wonderful stories that we've lined up with you. This is the very first episode of Diversity and Inclusion Stories. And I promise you, we have some incredible people and some incredible stories to be able to share with all of you here today. So we have 3 stories for you. And this kind of from where we started, we believe that we inspired a lot of hiring and representation of diverse talent within the organization. But what this is attempting to do is to now capture organizations that have progressed well in this journey and have done some incredible work in the area of inclusion. So, I'm going to ask you ground rules, even as the stories are carrying on. Do continue using the chat, make this very vibrant for those of you on LinkedIn. Continue the conversation, continue the dialogue. We do have a mechanism to be able to capture your questions. And here, please feel free, if you're on Zoom, to simply post your questions on the chat. And I promise we will pick these up and make these available to our absolutely incredible speakers today. So I want to start at the start by being able to simply put out a thank you, a really, really big thank you to Aradhana Lal, to Shivangi Khandelwal, and to Harpreet Guman for their generosity for coming forth and sharing their stories. And I must say here that it didn't take much, once we reached out, they were very generous and very forthcoming to be able to share their stories. And I think for that itself, they require a round of applause. So I hope sitting where you are, you're already applauding the generosity. So thank you, Aradhana. Thank you, Shivangi. Upfront, even before we heard your story, we already know about how incredible you are. But the fact that you're sharing this with the community to be able to inspire so many more people to know that this is possible, that this is doable, this is something that can really happen. Now, where this journey really comes unstuck in most cases is that you bring the talent in and they end up becoming artifacts within the organization because you don't yet have a culture to be able to, an inclusive culture to be able to integrate and manifest their positive contributions. And what you're going to see through these journeys is how these organizations have done such an incredible job with this. And I'm positive that it's going to inspire you. The first story we have today is called Manifesting the Special in Specially Abled. And we have Aradhana Lal from Lemon Tree, winner of huge number of accolades for the kind of work that she's done with this, with the group. We have nothing but respect for how it is that this incredible organization in the hospitality industry has managed to be able to manifest this kind of a culture that continuously integrates diverse talent. I'm going to introduce Aradhana in just a bit, but in terms of what we have on the spread for you today is the second talk as well, which is by Shivangi Khandelwal of Yum Brands. And her session's called When Actions Speak Louder Than Words, and she's going to be able to share with you their incredible story again of how they're integrating diverse talent, especially their specially abled stores, and some of the incredible work that they've done and how they've managed to influence every part of the organization to feel the same fire for wanting to integrate diverse talent. Last but not the least, in my sequence, I've got Harpreet Guman, who's been the head of learning and the head of D&I for the Raymond Group for a long time. Has experimented very greatly, especially in the space of gender diversity. She's now married and stays in the United States, and we're really excited to be able to welcome her as well. And she talks to you. And the third story is basically a series of stories and experiences around gender diversity. And so, today is about talking about real stories. Today is about being able to talk about real experiences. And all these real experiences means that there has been so much of pain, hard work, and personal sacrifice that each one of these people have done to be able to actually come to where they have arrived at in their diversity and inclusion stories. So huge round of applause and lots of thank yous to all three of them. I have the privilege to be able to start by introducing Aradhana Lal. Aradhana, welcome one more time, and it's incredible to be able to have you here, share your story. We've known of your good work for a very long period of time, but thank you for making your debut today on the Women Leadership Forum of Asia. I'm hoping this is not the last time that we see you here. I have one of our governing council member to be able to thank for this. Look, your company and your work is well known, and so I'm not going to give Akhil the credit of that. I'm just going to simply give Akhil the credit for how much of a flag bearer he is for all the work that you do. And we have one more governing council member, Bosco De Mello, who wrote me a long message, and you would be so incredibly delighted if you knew how he simply said at the end that Aradhana is a kick-ass person who does kick-ass work. And that work needs to be known by everyone. And so you have huge fans here in the audience. Thank you one more time. I'm just simply going to say a call out Aradhana's very outstanding background. very crisply, and then we're going to leave the stage for her. All right. So Aradhana is a TEDx speaker. She's an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. She has over 27 years of experience in sales, marketing, corporate communication, and sustainability. She's worked with companies like Taj Group of Hotels, Hindustan Unilever, and of course Lemon Tree, where she's doing some very incredible work. She's the founding member of Lemon Tree and leads. She's part of the founding member of Lemon Tree and leads brands, communication, and sustainability initiatives for Lemon Tree. So completely over to you, Aradhana. We're very, very excited to be able to learn about your story.
Thank you so much. That's a whole lot of energy and a whole lot of love, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. I want to say before we start that it's very interesting that Yum is going to speak at the same time as we are, because both our stories started at a very similar time in a similar year. So I'm happy to be here with Yum. I'm going to share my screen and the presentation and then start. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, great.
It's on slideshow now. So, one of the questions we get asked a lot at Lemon Tree is that why do we go for inclusion? It's a very basic and elementary question, but it has a very profound sort of answer, which is what we call the business sense of why we do this, or the business benefits. So essentially, we can look at this from three lenses. One is the employee benefits lens. The other is the brand benefits or the consumer benefits. And the third, of course, is nation building. Employee benefits, some of them are very obvious. Some of them are something we had not estimated. So the first step is, in the hotel business, people move around a lot between hotel companies, and sometimes they move outside the industry as well. And I'm talking about, normal times. I'm not talking about COVID times, because right now, as you know, the hotel industry is under a lot of stress. So I'm referring to times as usual. So people move around quickly. Now, the time when we opened up our doors to people with disability and people from economically and socially marginalized backgrounds, we suddenly had a bigger talent pool available to choose from. And that really changes the game from an HR perspective. So something to think about. People who are different from each other, who have special abilities, who have different abilities, the sense of creativity in the team rises. Because, a deaf person or a person who's autistic or somebody who has a physical handicap is negotiating life every day with that specific ability. The other abilities and the other senses of that person actually get honed and sharpened in a new kind of way. So, for instance, a deaf person has a very different way in which they can observe things, in which they can see things. And this really ends up making each of these people more creative, more able to see solutions and find solutions. And that helps you as an organization. The third point is the one that's most powerful. It's to do with employee engagement. And this is regarding all employees of the company. We are not referring only to those with disability. We are saying engagement levels rise for everyone in the organization. The reason we know this is we've participated in Great Place to Work for a number of years. And when they do the survey with our employees and ask them, why do you keep working at Lemon Tree? They give two answers. One is that they see quick growth. And the other is they feel very satisfied and very proud to be working in an inclusive company like Lemon Tree. And that's why they choose to stay. Now, isn't that something amazing that that's coming out of them directly without being prompted? One of the benefits that is very obvious is that there's reduced attrition amongst those with disability, because previously, at the time we started 14 years ago, they were not really getting many opportunities anywhere. And even today, while there are many more opportunities available today, still the attrition levels are about half that of the company. So if the company's attrition is somewhere around 50 or 55%, the attrition of our employees with disability will be about 25 to 30%. That's how it works. Again, I'm talking about normal times. Look at this from the consumer lens. There are a whole lot of guests who have never used Lemon Tree before, but they've heard about Lemon Tree. They know what we're doing on inclusion, and they actually make a choice that, let me go try this out. Let me just see what it's all about. So it's like a competitive advantage in some sense, and therefore it leads to trial. If we give good service, they will come back, they will return. Therefore, we will build loyalty. And some of them will even become brand ambassadors and help us build the brand by recommending us. So look at this from the lens of the chief marketing officer. What they need to do with customers is create trial, create return, and build recommendations. And an initiative like inclusion and diversity can actually lead to that, which is unintended, but it takes place. It's really fabulous. Now look at it from a nation building lens. If your organization wants to create good in the country, then why not represent a slice of society? Which means if there are people with disability in society, why not inside our company as well? By doing this, we are giving opportunity to those who normally don't get it or get a lesser chance, and we are allowing them to live with dignity and independence and self-reliance. It's basically a win-win solution. For those of you who don't know Lemon Tree, we're a chain of upscale, mid-scale, and economy hotels. We started in September 2002. Today, we are 87 hotels in 54 cities, including 2 outside the country. We have 8,500 rooms and about 5,500 employees. We're growing this number right now. We're the 3rd largest hotel chain in India by own rooms at this time. If you see the brands at the bottom, we have 7. Aurica, which is our upscale brand. Lemon Tree Premier, which is 4-star plus. Lemon Tree Hotels, the mother brand, which is 4-star. Red Fox Hotels, which is 3-star. We acquired the Keys portfolio 3 years ago. So Keys Prima, Keys Light, Select, and Keys Light. So total 7 brands. Let's look at the numbers. We started hiring people with disability in 2007. Today, we have about 450 people with disability and another 350 from economically and socially marginalized backgrounds. Together, we call these 2 segments opportunity deprived Indians, or ODIs, and it's about 16% even at this time post-COVID. A number of people did move on during COVID because they couldn't stay in the cities where our hotels were located. They wanted to go back to their hometowns in many cases, and we don't have a hotel there, so therefore they had to resign. We never asked anybody to go, actually. Our target for FY26 is 30%. So this 16% will not only double, but it will double on a wider base. So in sheer numbers, we are talking about a few thousand people who are from the ODI segment. That's our goal. What are the types of disability we've been hiring? Speech and hearing impaired is where we started our work, which is deaf essentially. Orthopedic handicap or physical handicap. This could be people with a partial handicap, say 1 arm or 1 leg, or a person who uses a wheelchair. Then we brought in acid survivors. Now, this is a very difficult disability because it leads to multiple injuries, and it also has a huge psychological impact on that person. So we have to be very gentle and careful with our acid survivors. Then the work with intellectual disability started about 6 or 7 years ago, maybe halfway down the road, where we are working with people with Down syndrome, slow learners, mild MR, and intellectual and developmental disability. We train them and then we hire them. Parallelly, we started the work with autism. Same, we start with a training or an internship and then we hire. And we've done some work with visually impaired and low vision. When you look at the economically and socially marginalized segment, which is the other side of this coin, there are orphans and abandoned girls. We've done some tie-ups with the Delhi government also for this. We are pursuing widows and divorcees and abandoned women. Transgenders is a segment that we have started recently. Our numbers are small right now, and in fact, we would like to grow them. We target people below poverty line, and the important segment we go after is what is called school dropouts. That is people who are educated up to class 9 and are therefore incomplete their education. There's a model we've developed. Now, I know there are a number of organizations on the session today who want to understand and know that if they were to do the same work and bring in people with disability, how shall they go about it? So I'm going to give you an overview because this model would take a lot of time to explain actually. So I'll give a quick overview. It's a 7-step model. I'll just open it out. So step 1 is that the vision comes from the very top and then it is cascaded. So by the very top, we mean the chairman or the managing director or the CEO or the president, whatever is the name that you use in your organization. This individual should understand and believe that it makes business sense, the way I explained a few minutes ago, and that it is part of the business model. There is no act of charity in this. It is just the way we do business. It's our HR approach, our HR strategy. The second pillar is to have a dedicated resource, which is myself, because it takes a lot of focus for an organization to build this ability, to build culture around this. So in Lemon Tree, we have a person who leads sustainability, that is me, and also a person from HR for whom this is a key role. The third step, I think, is very foundational. It is called sensitization. This means just because your leader and the leadership team know and understand why we are going for inclusion, it doesn't mean all our 6,000 employees understand it. So it's very important to prepare the organization, to brief them, train them, and what we call sensitize them. This is done with the help of our NGO partners because they are the disability experts. So we may understand hoteliering, but they understand disability. So if we're talking about bringing in deaf, if we're talking about bringing in someone who's autistic, we need to first brief our teams that what is this disability all about? And as a team member, as a boss, or as a colleague, what should you be doing? How shall you welcome this person? How shall you work with this person day after day? And in the case of the deaf, we learn a new language, which is called Indian Sign Language, because you can't communicate, you can't speak and communicate. So I'd like to tell you, and I'm really happy to say so, everyone in Lemon Tree knows Hindi, everyone knows English, and everyone knows Indian Sign Language, right from the chairman to the doorman, literally. Everybody knows. Because that's how you will be able to engage with the deaf team members. So that's what sensitization is all about. The fourth pillar is called job mapping. And sometimes I believe this is the first pillar, actually. It's kind of a 360 view. So in job mapping, the goal is that you take any role. Now, in a hotel company, there are approximately 10 departments and 10 roles at the entry level. So, for instance, there's front office, there's food and beverage service, which is the people in the restaurants, and food and beverage production, which is the chefs. There's housekeeping, there's engineering services, sales, HR, finance, and so on. So we take every role, we look at all the tasks that they perform on a daily basis, and we do a job mapping, which is done by the NGO partner, to see if a person is deaf, can he conduct all these 25 tasks, or are there 4 or 5 tasks that the person cannot do? Similarly, if the person has Down syndrome, can they conduct these 30 tasks or not? And so on. Now, when you do this job mapping, you will find that they cannot conduct 100% of the tasks. It's not possible. There will be 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 tasks that they cannot conduct. Now, as an organization, that is okay for us. We remove those 5 tasks from that person's role, and it is part of another person's role. However, if we find that in a job mapping process, about 50% or 40% of the tasks cannot be done by that disability, then we will not map that disability and that role. We will say this is not feasible because we are not doing charity. So you can't take a person and say, just do 1 task. It's not possible. The team cannot run like that. And also we are a 3 and a 4-star company hotel largely. So our staffing ratios are quite tight. So we have to be careful. Pillar 5 is about developing partnerships. I've already mentioned to you 2-3 times that we have to work with our NGO partners, and that's what this partnership is all about. But it's wider. We also have partnerships with other organizations in our sector, in other sectors, basically other corporates, where we learn from each other. That's also a partnership. And then there are forums like the one I'm speaking in right now, where we need to build knowledge, build capacity, and become advocates in some sense. So that is also a partnership, plus the government. We can partner at any level. Pillar 6 is that once you're clear you want to start inclusion and bring in people with disability, don't just jump the gun and go whole hog. It will be very hard. You need some time to pace it, and you need some time to learn. So that's why we say run pilots, run traineeships, which can be monitored and reviewed. You will understand the things that are not working, and you will understand the things that are working. And then you will finalize and go to step 7 or pillar 7, which is scaling up. Now, for any organization to say that they're truly inclusive, they must scale up. They must take it national. Otherwise, it's just an experiment. So very briefly, these are the 7 pillars of our inclusion model. At another stage, if you like, Sujaya, I can talk about more details because actually there's a lot to be said, but I'm keeping it brief right now.
Sure.
A few examples, a deep dive I want to do, some very little examples. Now take the kind of tools or the kind of preparations we have to make for different disabilities. Look at the first one up here where my cursor is. We're talking about speech and hearing impaired. So there's an introductory card on display. It looks like this, the green and white card over here. It simply says, hi, I'm Deepak and I work at Citrus Cafe. I can't speak or hear, but if you write down your request, I will be very happy to serve you. This card is worn by them around their neck, like you wear your company ID card. And if a guest who's new tries to speak to this person, they are quickly able to show the card to that guest in a few seconds so that they realize that by speaking, they won't be able to communicate. This deaf person always has a notepad and a pen available on him or her, so the guest can write down what they want to. So it's a very simple step, but it allows for the guest to realize quickly that there's no point in speaking to this particular employee. Also, we have set up WhatsApp groups with them. They're very good at receiving data and giving answers on WhatsApp, as well as doing videos, in fact, which are in sign language, and that works very nicely. Take a look at OH, which is orthopedic handicap or physical handicap. All our hotel back areas need to be accessible. Just for you to know, our hotels are built to universal access design standards. So all public areas of the hotel are accessible to people with disability because we have guests who might have disability. But we have to also make sure that our back areas are accessible. Plus, the role that we assign should involve minimal movement. I'll show you some photographs, you'll understand right away at that time. Now, when we look at intellectual disability like Down syndrome and autism, we are running a traineeship model. So instead of hiring them outright, we will first keep them as interns and train them for about 6 months, sometimes more. Once they learn the task, then a job offer is made to them because their exposure is so less before they come to us. They really don't know enough to be able to be given a job right away. Here's another adjustment we have made. We don't give them any night shifts. As you know, hotels are 24-hour operations, morning shift, afternoon shift, night shift. Our partners, our NGO partners told us if you give night shifts and night after night they don't sleep, it impacts their body very deeply. And remember, Down syndrome is a matter of a chromosome being different. So their organs are different from people who don't have Down syndrome. So we cannot push them to that limit because their health will fail if we do that. So we offer morning shifts and adjusted afternoon shifts. The normal time for an afternoon shift is from 3 p.m. to midnight. But for Down syndrome and autism, we offer 1 p.m. to 10 p.m. So remember, they will work the same as anybody else, but a slight adjustment will be made to keep in mind their physical strength and ability. We've done some revised standard phrases. We've made the language simpler. Take a look at this picture. It's called a Me book. The timetable for the day, the schedule for the day is slotted by hour, and we simply write down the task in very simple words because people with Down syndrome can understand simple written text, not complex. And there's a photograph of that boy or girl doing that task. So table setting, wiping of glasses, and so on. The reason is it's a memory aid. Down syndrome is known to have trouble sometimes with memory. And therefore, imagine if every 15-20 minutes, you have, say, 4 or 5 Down syndrome team members, they go and ask the manager, what should I do now? What should I do now? It's very hard to run an operation like that. So we keep training them, keep making them practice what their tasks are and what the sequence is. But we also give this Me book, which is in their pocket, so that they can refer to it and they really do use it. You must see how well they use it. Then coming to visually impaired, we have to make sure that all software and standard operating procedures and training content is accessible. Otherwise, how will the visually impaired be able to read and understand and know the content? A few photographs. This is a person who's an acid survivor. She works in revenue management and she uses the computer and the phone. So she doesn't need to face new people each and every day. So that works out well. These are 2 boys who are autistic. Both are in housekeeping, doing different tasks right now. One is dusting and the other one is setting up tea, coffee, milk in the room. With autism, what they look for is predictability. So when we did the job mapping, we saw that the role of the room boy is highly predictable. The lineup of the tasks will not change. The standard operating procedure of dusting or setting up tea, coffee or making a bed, nothing will change. The only thing that changes is, do you have 20% occupancy in the hotel or 50% occupancy or 100% occupancy? That is all that will change. That is for the manager to take care of. The boy is going to just do his tasks. So they are very comfortable in this role and they can learn it easily because it is predictable. Our Down syndrome team members are part of food and beverage service. They are in the coffee shop. And if you see again, they're doing simple tasks which require a lot of practice for them. But once they have practiced, they can do it so well and they are perfectionists. They want to do it excellently. So whether it's the juice stacking or the napkin folding, they will focus and they will do it exactly as you train them. I must tell you another outcome. The team members who have Down syndrome or who are autistic, they have actually retaught everybody else who doesn't have a disability what the SOP is. They have made them practice and reteach them because they are such perfectionists. That's why. Here's a person who's hard of hearing. He works in finance. I was mentioning earlier that we're very flexible on education, but there are some roles where the education is required. So in finance, you have to be a BCom. You can't otherwise understand the tasks. So we are implementing it accordingly. Here are our team members who have physical handicaps. If you notice, the person on the left doesn't have a right arm. The person on the top right is a wheelchair user. And the person on the bottom right is a user of crutches. So he's got a partial disability. So appropriately, we offer them roles in front office and housekeeping and so on, which don't require too much movement. Here are our deaf colleagues. They are in every department, actually. So food and beverage service, the two pictures on the left, and housekeeping and uniform room, the two pictures on the right. You will notice the use of hands everywhere, which is people talking in sign language. These are just some candid shots of the team. And that's all of us together. It's an integrated team. So the managers, people with disability, Down syndrome, deaf, low vision, physical handicap, it's a mix of people. That's what this photograph is representing. I'll request the team to please play the video. So I'll stop sharing. It's a 5-minute video and then we can go into Q&A. The video shows our work in sustainability, including and largely about the diversity work.
छोटा था तो मुझे पता नहीं था कि ऑटिज्म होता क्या है. जैसे जैसे ये बड़ा होता गया मेरी टेंशन बढ़ती गई.
Person with autism has a difficulty in social and communication skills. If we see कि कितना अच्छे से वो डस्टिंग और सारा रूम बनाते हैं, बट वो रूम बनाने के पीछे जो चीज़ें होती हैं वो बहुत सी मेहनत की जाती है उनके साथ. जो भी एक टास्क है उसको SOP को भी बहुत छोटा छोटा ब्रेक करके और उसको सिखाना, एक मैनुअल, डिफरेंट मैनुअल बनाया जाता है
जो कि नॉर्मल बच्चे नहीं कर पाते। ये इतना कॉन्फिडेंट हो गए कि मम्मा मैं हूँ आपके साथ, मैं करूँगा।
आई थिंक सो कोई भी इतना परफेक्टली काम नहीं कर सकता जितना वो कर रहा है घर में।
आज मैं गर्व फील करती हूँ कि ऐसा बच्चा मुझे मिला है।
Well, lovely, Aradhana. I'm overwhelmed like everybody else is in the audience. And I just want to say this is just so incredible, and hats off to you and the entire team. I'm just going to, at this point, sorry, no, you were saying something?
No, just saying thank you.
Okay. So we have, as you can see in the chat box, a fair amount of questions that are already up for you. I think someone wanted to know, do you also employ people with cerebral palsy? So just wanted to get...
Started cerebral palsy yet. It's a pretty complex one, but we will get to it. There are many disabilities. In fact, the 2016 RPWD Act defined 21 disabilities versus the earlier 9. So there's a lot of work for us to do. The pandemic has taken us a step back in terms of innovation. The practice remains, of course. We will do more innovation in the future.
I'm sure. So everyone wants to know, what inspired you and the Lemon Tree leadership to want to walk on this path. And that there must have been incredible, and there are invariably incredible challenges. So I think everyone's very interested in knowing more about that. What inspired you? And if you can call out some of the challenges you experienced in your journey.
I'll talk inspiration first. It always helps. And then I'll talk challenges. So our chairman and managing director, who's the founder of our company, his name is Patu Keswani. Some of you may know him.
Yes.
He was looking at different kinds of experimentation about 14 years ago, right at the beginning. So he was experimenting with the design of the hotels, with the food concepts, with HR practices, with many things. So one of the questions he asked our HR head was, what will happen if we hire people with disability? And the answer the HR head gave was, sir, I don't know, but I can try. So he says, come on, let's try. So truly, it was begun as an experiment, but that's not the end of the story. For about 2 years, we were hiring people who are deaf, and started with 2 people, and it became about 20 to 25 people across 5 hotels and different geographies. It was Delhi, Pune, and Goa. So the learnings in those 2 years was that once we can equip our team with the Indian Sign Language, and once we can train them very well, the people with disability in Indian Sign Language, train them about housekeeping, train them about food and beverage and so on, their delivery of the tasks was excellent. Sometimes they were more efficient. So in housekeeping, a room boy who is deaf seems to clear about maybe 23 or 24 rooms a day. whereas a person who's hearing possibly is cleaning about 19-20 rooms a day. It was a short study we did. So there's about 15% more efficiency. Now, this makes a hell of a lot of sense. This is what it is. But it's not necessary in every case, everywhere, but this is a study we had done. So this is after we evaluated the sense of engagement, after we evaluated the sense of productivity, and when we realized the impact having people who were specially able in the team had on those who didn't have disability, that engagement became very, very key for us. So after 2 years, it was a strategic decision by all of us, and of course led by Patu, to say that this will be a part of our HR strategy and this will be our business model. At no time did we think it had anything to do with charity. That didn't even occur to us, because they work the same number of days, same number of hours, they're paid the same salary, all of that happens.
Right.
So that's how the inspiration part gets covered. Coming to challenges, you're absolutely right. Several challenges, and I would say there are 3 phases to these challenges. I'll try to make it brief.
Okay.
Starting point was tough because you had all these team members who had never even met a person with disability. You had some managers who never worked with a person with disability. And because disability is a social taboo in our country, there are certain preconceived ideas about it. So some of the questions we got in the very beginning were, oh, but can a person with disability work? So we're like, okay, yes, they can work, you will see. So the first few steps required us to just push a little harder, make them understand and make them believe. After that, it was seeing is believing. Then it was easy.
Right.
The second set of challenges came after 4 or 5 years, when we had only been focusing on deaf and we wanted to move to physical handicap, intellectual handicap, and so on. So switching gears as an organization required us to go back to the beginning of that 7-pillar model again. So I just want to tell you, that's how the model got developed. We realized just because you did good work with deaf doesn't mean you are automatically going to do good work with physical handicap, autism, Down syndrome, and so on. You need to do that wheel again. So that's the second set of challenges. A third level of challenge, which is going on for last 7-8 years, I would say, is that because in our society, A, it's a social taboo, and B, the family and the immediate society is very protective of such individuals. Plus their exposure to any learning or to peer learning or to anything is so low. We are fighting that. We're fighting that lack of knowledge in that individual, and the lack of knowledge that when a person with disability comes to a workplace, he is like any other professional. So the parents have to also be trained and sort of re-geared. So the NGOs help us do that. You can't just call in and say, "Aaj mood nahi hai, hum kaam pe nahi jayenge." It's not a school, it's not a training center, it's not a vocational center. You can't call in and say, "Hum aaj kaam pe nahi jayenge, hum aaj TV dekhenge baith ke." Aise nahi hota hai. So therefore, the sense of discipline and professionalism, that even if you want to take casual leave, it has to be planned. Unless you're unwell, then it's okay, that's fine. So these kind of issues on professionalism and preparation is a challenge we face constantly. And the first 2 issues I told you.
Right. So well said. I'm just going to take one more question, Aradhana, and I know that, we would have loved to stay and hear more. And, you also said you could expand that cycle so much more if you had more time. We should get you in to do a entire masterclass yourself, really, because there's so much help required in this space. So many people have not even scraped the surface of starting on this journey because they don't quite know how to do this. So I'm just going to ask you that last question, because I thought it's a very relevant question that Zenobia is asking. And she's saying, while this is really, really inspiring work, how do you, she wants to understand, how do you handle a customer or guest not being sensitive to this group? I mean, we have as a society actually not been very fair to this group. Families hide them away. They're not part of the census many times. They're just so many, they don't even get counted as people who really exist in so many ways, which is part of the reason why you're talking about the lack of exposure, professionalism, and the rest of that. And this parents' outreach is such a significant part of integrating them into the workforce. But tell us a bit about what Zenobia is asking, which is, how do you handle guest or customer? You can teach the rest of them on how to create a sensitive environment, but what about guest and customer?
You'll be surprised. We've been doing this for 14 years. no guest has ever had a sharp negative reaction in front of an employee. Some of the guests have been confused. Some have been, just surprised. Like their face shows their surprise. But it takes a few seconds. And if you keep watching their face, in a few seconds, it will change to a sense of pride, to a sense of happiness. I don't know what. And I wonder, why do they feel a sense of pride? I don't know. So it's quite beautiful. So firstly, let's talk about it at an emotional level. There may be confusion, there may be surprise, but it quickly turns to a very heartwarming, positive response. And it comes out in their feedback. The number of guests who write specific feedback, either on our direct feedback system or on TripAdvisor or Booking.com or anywhere, Make My Trip, they say that I like to stay at Lemon Tree because they're very efficient, they're very cost effective, this, that, whatever. And they say because they are hiring people with disability, one of the things they state, I feel as though I am contributing to the life of that person because my hotel stay money is partly going to go towards salary of that person. So that's really awesome. Look at it from a service perspective. Are the services 100% perfect? The answer is no. Will a person with disability make an error? The answer is yes. The question is, how does the team and how do the managers and supervisors, how do they recover that moment? So if it's in a public area like the lobby or the coffee shop or whatever, all our managers are trained to keep a clear watch on what's going on at all times, person with disability or without disability. If they see a hold up somewhere, if they see something looks like it's potentially not right, they will step in with ease and with dignity and say, may I support you? May I also help you? Not push that person aside or anything, but just step in. And that resolves the matter a number of times. If it's away from your site, so suppose a boy who's got Down syndrome is going to deliver a room service order, then he'll be alone. So we prepare the guest. We call the guest and say, today your order is being delivered by, say, Arnav, who's a person with Down syndrome. He's fully trained. Should you experience any difficulty in the service, just call me. Now, can you imagine that guest? He's fully prepared and he experiences it very well and his expectations are set. So, when
Did we lose her? Okay, I think we have a problem with Aradhana's connectivity. Right. We'll try and get her right back. So hold on there. I think this is a not to miss conversation. So just hold on there. We'll try and bring Aradhana right back. She'll join right back. In the interim, I'm just wondering, can we try and bring in, we have someone very special who's just joined us here today, and we've got Dr. Ritu Anand. Ritu, do you want to say anything to the group at this point? I think you're on mute.
It says that you have muted me.
Okay, no, it must be the because it was ongoing with Aradhana, so everyone's been muted. So they just unmuted you. Yeah,
sorry,
go ahead, Ritu. Please use this as an opportunity to Aradhana. We use this chance very quickly to be able to get Dr. Ritu Anand to be able to just say something in the interim when we join back. So we just hear her. Ritu, go ahead.
Yeah, no, actually, I was loving listening to Aradhana, and very amazing story, very inspired. We've also been doing, we've created Enable as a platform and ERG for people with different abilities. And Aradhana, very, very inspiring job that you are doing. And I've been in a lemon tea environment in the past, and I know that you're at a very advanced stage. Sujaya, to everybody, a very, very big, I would say all the very best for the journey that LNOD is running. I would say we have to think very big. We have to think audacious. We have to keep the universe in mind and not let anything which has been discussed in the past and now should be part of the hygiene factor in your organizations to be the main conversation. Okay, time is now to do something different and very advanced, and show the world what India or Asia is. You have to use your the cultural nuances where women and people with different mindsets were ruling the world to come to the forefront. I would say diversity of the mind, diversity of the perspectives, the allies becoming your mainstay for the inclusion discussion should be the conversation. Creating opportunities for marginalized segments should be your primary goal, not providing enabling only the hygiene factors, crashes and the ramps and the different props for us to look good. Not that has to be done, no doubt, but that should be quietly that should be done in the background. Now the when I did some survey many years ago, and I know in the audience some of my ex-colleagues are there, and they would know that the topmost concern of women at that time was that we don't see the opportunities, and my focus since then has been on that, and it is shown to me what I was missing. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you are in HR or in leadership, this is the job which all of us have to shake hands with. I am keeping my nation where gender diversity index is at the lowest year on year. It hurts us. So we really need to get girls into the schools and colleges. We really need to get them into corporates and in paid employment, and we need to get them to leadership levels. Thank you very much, Sujya, for having me.
Thank
It's always
you.
a pleasure.
Thank you for hopping in, and thank you. I know you have a busy day, but you still came in, so I wanted to make sure you address the audience. I think with that, I know you're all waiting to listen to the last part of what Aradhana was explaining. So thank you, Ritu, and I'm going to move back to Aradhana. Aradhana, please tell us more. You were talking about challenges and telling us some real nitty-gritties, interesting ones. So I'm going to look back into that and ask you to continue the conversation on challenges.
So I'll name one more challenge. Sometimes a person with disability, because he's been so protected his whole life, he has a sense of I don't know, entitlement or right or something. It's a bit different. So to normalize that, you have to be a little strict with them sometimes.
Right.
So you're not yelling, you're not scolding unnecessarily and all that, but you're not mollycoddling either. It's very important. So sometimes when they say, "Oh, I'm very tired, my legs are hurting," this, that, if we understand that that person has a genuine biological reason, like a person with Down syndrome, we will build in 2 minutes of rest or 5 minutes of rest. We will not build in 30 minutes of rest. That's not possible. And we will build this in, say, every 2 hours or 3 hours. Now, then that person appreciates that you're taking into account his issue and you're allowing him some respite without spoiling him. And very important, the other team members should not feel that they are being spoiled, because then they'll say, "Why should we work hard?" The deaf guy will say, "Just because I'm not saying my legs are not paining, you're not letting me sit, but actually my legs are paining. So what the hell?" So, you have to think about it that way also. So it's very interesting how you keep the firmness and you keep the workplace adjustments working together without allowing the atmosphere in the team to get spoiled. So that's a challenge. It needs a balance all the time.
Right. Right. So well said. And I'm so glad for all the nuances that you're sharing, Aradhana. This definitely deserves a full-fledged masterclass. I know everyone here wants to give you and Lemon Tree a standing ovation, but we're going to suffice with being able to just give you a round of applause for all of this. Aradhana, thank you for accepting to do this. And I hope you can stay with us as long as you can on this. I'm going to bring up one of your colleagues, and, I know you and and Yum Brands, know each other, exchange, ideas. So I'm really delighted to be able to call up the next speaker in your presence. But one more time, thank you for the incredible sharing. And thank you for inspiring so many people in the audience. You can see it's full of a lot of praise and a lot of inspiration that people are expressing.
So Sujaya, in sign language, I'm going to say thank you. I hope you can see both my hands. That's thank you in sign language. Shivangi knows.
Okay. All right, lovely. So everyone, one more round of applause for the incredible Aradhana Lal of Lemon Tree. So I think with that, thank you, Aradhana. And I think with that, we will move on to the next part of the stories that we want to hear, the incredible real diversity and inclusion stories. So up next, we've got, another a very incredible D&I professional, and I'm very delighted that she's making her debut with the Women Leadership Forum of Asia today. So welcome, Shivangi Khandelwal, and Shivangi is going to talk to us about what we've called when actions speak louder than words. This is KFC India's specially abled inclusion journey. And I have the privilege to be able to introduce Shivangi Khandelwal. Shivangi has about 15 years of experience across different parts of HR, including, in information technology. She's also been part of academics for some times, and of course, the quick restaurant services space. In her current role, she's heading corporate human resources for KFC India, and she also acts as the D&I lead for this brand. I do know of very closely of Shivangi's work and the KFC India journey. So I'm just going to hand it over to you, Shivangi. For the rest of the audience, keep the chat really vibrant, and please keep posting your questions for Shivangi as we go along. So over to you, Shivangi.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sujaya, for creating this platform, because I think these platforms basically build conversations that are very important for bringing the mindset shifts. And these mindset shifts would actually lead to very focused actions, thereby making an impact and change in the society. So thanks a lot for being that change agent. And before I start, I would really want to give a big hand of applaud and for the very impressive work that Lemon Tree is doing. It was so wonderful to know of the depth of the work that Aradhana spoke about, and that is so reflective of the facts that the D&I, the diversity and inclusion interventions, these efforts are not for a year or so. They develop over a period of time. These are multi-year interventions, and we evolve along the journey. And I must also share my personal experience of a customer of a Lemon Tree Hotel, and as a customer, when I was there and was being served by somebody who was specially abled, it was so delighting to see the kind of customer centricity that they had. And that is actually a true reflection of the inclusive culture that the brand has built for them. Because at the end of the day, a customer's delight is directly linked to the employee's delight. And because the employee was delighted, because they were feeling included, the processes were inclusive for them, that it kind of reflected in in the kind of experience that they were giving to the customers. So big hand of applaud, kudos to the great work, Aradhana, and so much to learn from you and the brand. So on that note, let me talk to you a little bit about the baby steps that we have taken in this journey. So at Yum, our mission is to build the world's most loved, trusted, and the fastest growing restaurant brands. And with that, the major goal for us, or the growth drivers for us, is basically the unrivaled talent and culture, because it is the unrivaled talent and the culture which would basically lead to a customer experience which is exceptional and consistent across stores, consistent across different days and across the different shifts, and also would give success to our franchise partners. And that unrivaled talent has to be diverse, because it has to reflect the customers that we are serving. Also, the unrivaled culture has to be inclusive, because it has to create an environment wherein we can actually take out the best in people. And with that, we had to define the diversity and inclusion areas for the KFC brand in India. And India has, as a country, has a very interesting personality from the standpoint of diversity. So it was important for us to identify our focus areas. And for our diversity and inclusion agenda for KFC in India, we identified I hope I am audible. I'm getting a message here.
Now you are, Shivangi. Now we can hear you.
Okay, great. So So I was talking about the unrivaled culture and the talent. So from the standpoint of our focus areas, it was gender diversity and specially able diversity, specially able from the standpoint of hearing and speech impaired. And we called our diversity and inclusion program as KFC Shamata because it is all about feeding people's potential. So I'll move on to talking more about our program here. So basically twofold. One is the KFC Shamta around, building an inclusive culture for specially able, which is hearing and speech impaired, and KFC Shamta, which is all about, not just hiring, but also growing more women at our restaurants. For today's conversation, we will keep our focus to specially able. And it has been a very, very interesting journey. I must share with you, Ratna spoke about, young brands and lemon trees starting almost at the same time. It was around 2008 when we actually started with our first specially able store. And this was started by our, major franchise partner, Devyani International. With the two stores that got started, today we are about 33 specially able stores that hire and grow hearing and speech impaired people. And in these, and in this journey of increasing this number to 16 times, there has been a lot of learning from the standpoint of what works, what doesn't work. How do we move from representation to inclusion to growth? And today, as we talk, we have specially able stores across 19 cities, wherein we employ around 133 specially able team members, and also have around 6 store managers who lead not just hearing and speech impaired people, but also the regular team members. But what has been interesting is the kind of impact that this journey brought to the lives of people who were associated with the brand, and which actually led to their retention and their performance in terms of contributing to the brand from the standpoint of consumer experience. And I'm going to, share with you an interesting story, a success story of one of our specially able team members here.
Stereotypes. How we wish they didn't exist. And neither does Inderjeet. But seldom are differently abled people seen beyond labels of victimhood and incapability. Childhood wasn't fun and games for Inderjeet.
डॉक्टर को दिखाया लेके तो उन्होंने बोला ये बोल नहीं पाता सुन नहीं पाता.
But now he's seen as a symbol of potential, not pity. Inderjeet has been a team member at KFC since 2019.
मेरे बच्चे की बहुत अच्छी नौकरी लगी और वो अपने पैरों पे खड़ा है.
छोटा भाई होकर भी मेरी पूरी फैमिली को चला रहा है अभी. मुझे गर्व फील होता है कि वो KFC के अंदर वर्दी पहनकर जाता है वो यहाँ से. उन्होंने ऐसे बच्चों को भी जॉब देकर आगे बढ़ाने के लिए काम किया है.
So that's the story of Inderjeet. Inderjeet is the younger son in the family, and he's the bread earner for the family. And how proud is the mother to talk about the fact that she wasn't really expecting him to be the primary caregiver to the family, and that's the role that he's playing today. But what is important, that we realize is in this particular journey is that while there are employees who are associated with us, many times they see this association as a job, but what is critical for them to basically look at it, as a career, because when they look at it as a career, then there would be aspirations and motivations to grow ahead and to take up more on their plate.
Stereotypes.
But what I'm going to talk to you about is basically the journey which is beyond the numbers. We spoke about the numbers wherein we have grown from 2 stores which were specially abled and hiring specially able team members to today around 33 specially able stores across 19 cities in the country. And we're also looking at almost doubling, our specially able store count, as well as the specially able percentage at the different special stores. But what is interesting in this journey is the what goes behind those numbers. And this is basically a rounded approach. So from the standpoint of hiring, it is very important for us to have the right kind of partners in the place. We have onboarded NGO partners who are very strong in terms of getting the right kind of talent. Also being very transparent with the candidates in terms of what the role expectations are. So on our KFC website, we have something called the RJP, which is the Realistic Job Preview. It's a video with sign language embedded into it, which talks about how is it that one is going to experience the journey of working at KFC. It's very important to be very transparent from the very beginning so that the expectations are set right and we are able to retain people for a longer period of time. From the standpoint of retention, and I think Aradhana also indicated towards this, for somebody who is hearing and speech impaired, many times the family is very, very protective, to the extent that they are the ones who are probably taking decisions of them working, making their career choices, taking off days, and therefore it is very important for us to involve them in the process. It is very important for us to make them aware about the brand and the growth opportunities. It is very important to talk to them about what this particular association would do for their career. And therefore we ensure that our restaurant general managers are very deeply connected with not just the special team members but also with their families, engaging with them, inviting them to the store, making them experience the life at the store so that they have better appreciation for the work that their child is doing when they come back home after a tough day. So that retention, apart from that, also ensuring that we have the right systems in place, we have a more inclusive environment, we have an infrastructure that takes care of their needs to be able to perform the best at their workplace. Inclusion, which is very important for them to be engaged at a everyday basis. And from that standpoint, looking at everything, whether it be people interaction, is it that when we are interacting with them, people around are reflecting the kind of difficulty in understanding them? Is it formal, or can people also get into the zone of informal conversations with somebody who's specially able? And in that, one of the key insights was that as we hire from from some of the NGOs, it is always advisable to look at people, to hire not just one but at least 2 or 3 people at a time, so that they can act as buddy to each other. While there will be people who are trained in sign language at the store, but to have a buddy would ensure that they have the comfort of sharing their experiences with somebody who knows them well. From the growth standpoint also, it was very important to ensure that they understand the growth opportunities. At a prima facie, it may appear that it is easy for me to play a team member job for which I am hired, because it is an individual contributor role and it doesn't expect me to interact with the customer. Whereas if I grow to a store manager, it could be a shift manager or it could be an assistant restaurant manager, the complexity of the role would enhance. And as somebody who's specially able, do I really want to get into a role which involves communication? Was a mental barrier that had that had to be taken care of. Again, from the standpoint of communication, many times when somebody is associated with a store, that becomes their world. And in that world, they feel that I'm the only one, or we are the only 2-3 people who are associated with the brand, and these are the challenges that we are facing. But when they look at it at a larger base, when they look at it as as a brand which actually hires and which actually empowers around 100, close to 150 such employees, then there is a mutual motivation that comes into play. And it also motivated us to build success stories. to look at people, the people who were actually behind the bucket, the people who were making the KFC bucket, the so-called people's favorite KFC bucket. So celebrating some of those was important because they had to see the hero in themselves. But as you define the interventions for any organization, in the diversity and inclusion roadmap, there are different questions that pop up. There is a lot of noise in the mind from the standpoint of that if I invest my energies, if I channelize my resources towards a particular intervention, would that lead to a sense of disparity for the majority? How is it that I should go about my interventions? And for us, there the guiding principle was basically the difference between equality and equity. It is very easy to have an equality approach wherein I broad brush and say that I'm going to provide equal resources to everybody who works with me. But it is very, it is complex. It requires a lot of investment of thinking in terms of identifying what is the right resource mapping for the individual that needs it. And from that standpoint, equity plays the right role. As you can see in the picture here, equality is easy, right? You give the same set of input to everybody, and that is not leading to give them a right status wherein they can give an equal output. Whereas equity is about restructuring your resources so that you are enabling people to give the right output. So that, this, I feel that this is, really important for us to kind of declutter in terms of identifying and picking what the priorities should be. And with that, what is also important is to basically constantly listen to what the needs are. And talking about the hearing and speech impaired team members, and we call them as special team members, some of the, as we enhance the listening capability of ourselves for the specially able people, we realized that there were a couple of things that they were wanting to call out. One was that a QSR for the kind of speed that is expected in that particular sector seemed to be tough for somebody who's specially able. At the same time, people felt at times that that they were the odd ones out, and also felt that they were not probably cut out for the senior roles or management roles. So it was important for us to, through the interventions that we defined from the equity approach, to look at how is it that we can solve for each one of them. One of it was to provide an enabling infrastructure, which is to basically say that I would put light alarms, and light alarms not just for the interaction between the front of the house and the back of the house, but also in my equipments, so that my hearing and speech impaired team member can work equally efficiently. At the same time, so while we had our training modules for the team members, and we had also embedded scripts into it so that a hearing and speech impaired team member can also understand it well. But we realized that the comprehension was taking time, and therefore we embedded sign language videos as we superimpose them on our existing training modules so that the learning becomes easier for them and the learning curve becomes shorter. Also, it is obvious for somebody to feel the odd one out because you're not part of the majority. And therefore, it was important for us to ensure that everybody understands sign language well. So from that standpoint, we looked at a graded sign language training module. So right from a basic sign language training, which everyone in the system should know, to intermediate to high level of sign language understanding, so that the different levels of communication can happen easily with somebody who's hearing and speech impaired. Also, for a constant recall for the team members who are there at the stores, things like sign language posters and engagement in sign language, etc., were also put into place. while somebody felt that people in this group felt that they were not cut out for the management role for the kind of challenges that I called out earlier, what we did was that we identified the high potentials in this particular group of people. And for those high potentials, it was important for us to understand their development goal. So we call it as our individual development planning process. So through that process, we identified what is their development goal. Now, for this person to grow, the development goal could be, say, functional, wherein they probably do not understand a particular module well. It could be, back of the house, front of the house, cash counter, or whatever that may be. Or it could be something which is, more soft skills based. It could be, communication, email, etc., which is important for somebody when they start getting into the store management roles. Or it could be something as basic as motivation to, the lack of motivation to look at the growth to the next level. And from that standpoint, we hired somebody who was not just an expert in sign language to be on our roles permanently, but we also ensured that we are hiring somebody who comes with the right kind of empathetic mindset. So this particular person is born and brought up with parents who are themselves hearing and speech impaired, and she says that sign language is my mother tongue. So when these people connect on a weekly basis for the coaching and the mentoring programs, the conversations become more heart to heart. It becomes easier for the organization to enhance our own listening skills to what their needs are, and also to be able to grow them in this particular process. And I think it is very important for the organization to have somebody within the system, and have some of these roles as permanent roles, as Aradhana also alluded to, because these are long-term journeys. And for the organization to build this tacit knowledge is very, very critical, because that will act as the input as we improvise on the interventions year on year. Also, connecting with these team members is very important, because it kind of helps us come over our own biases or unconscious biases that we may have. So for example, in some of the previous conversations with the restaurant general managers, it came out that somebody who's a hearing and speech impaired or a specially able team member is a great hire for the points that the retention is much higher than a regular team member. B, the integrity challenges are almost nil for somebody who's hearing and speech impaired. So from the standpoint of doing something which is very core, which is very operation specific, wherein we have enough clarity in terms of what is it that one has to do as an individual contributor, the focus was very high, and they were able to do an exceptional and consistent job. And also the integrity challenges didn't really exist. Also from the standpoint of strengths and opportunity areas, the restaurant general managers in one of the conversations called out that they will be great contributors in the back of the house, wherein they have to constantly bread the chicken. But interestingly, when we had some of these conversations with hearing and speech impaired people, and in this case, I'm alluding to Kuljit, the video that you just saw a few minutes back. He said that I was checking with him that which section of the kitchen of the store is most interesting for him, and he said that the front of the house is most interesting because I love meeting new customers, I love interacting with them, and they are very inclusive, they are very welcoming. So that is the part of the job that I love the most. So I think some of these interactions also declutter our own thoughts and our own mindsets to be able to build the right kind of progress journey for our special team members. And also what is interesting is to see how is it that we can build inclusion beyond our employees. How is it that we can build an inclusive culture at a broader level? And from that intent, what you would have noticed is that KFC now has closed caption ads. So all the ads that we have closed captions for our customers who are hearing and speech impaired. Also, one very interesting intervention that that we led was the Sign Language Day celebration across all our 33 special stores that we have across the country. And this was a very, very interesting intervention. So the intervention invited our customers to learn basic sign language, interact with team members in sign language, and place their orders in sign language. And it was like making the sign language, making the use of sign language a cult, wherein team members who are specially able feel proud and great to be associated with the brand. And at the same time, the customers, the consumers have some basic understanding that is not there just for that particular day, but that continues. And that was, I feel, an interesting step in terms of leading a broader change, building a broader inclusive country as a whole. And I'm just going to show you a short video on this particular intervention. So the endeavor is that somebody who's specially able, hearing and speech impaired, and works for KFC should feel proud to be proud to be associated with the brand. Should look forward to coming to the store to work. Should see it as a second home, and not just work for the sake of earning. And at the same time, there is better appreciation in the society for the abilities that special people bring to the table. So on that note, thank you so much, Dr. Sujaya, for this particular opportunity. And I would, if there are NGOs participating in the conversation today, I would really invite them, to partner with us. And I'm so glad, Dr. Sujaya, to know about the hiring support intervention that you spoke about at the beginning. Yes. And here you have your first, partner on that particular intervention. So really look forward to benefiting from this partnership. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah, beautiful and very, very inspiring. Thank you so much. I think that what you said is also self-explanatory. We don't have a lot of questions here, but it's been beautiful to know of your journey, and thank you for the generosity of sharing this with all of us today. So big round of applause to Shivangi Khandelwal and to Yum Brands for doing such outstanding work. And we're hoping to be able to get you back, because I know there's so much more in your kitty that people would really be inspired to learn from. So for today, thank you, Shivangi, for being here today with all of us. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Okay, lovely. And I think with that, we move to the third story of the day. And I know that we have a bit of a time constraint here, so we'll have to move really fast. Those of you who really engaged and enjoyed the stories that Harpreet has for us today, I'm going to request you. It looks like we're going to have to extend by about 5 or 10 minutes, but we've requested her to kind of contain it and keep it as brief as she can. I'm really delighted. I see it as a privilege to be able to introduce Harpreet Guman to all of you here today. She's going to be talking to us about gender diversity, the untold story. And Harpreet's going to relate some of the experiences, stories that she's had, especially in her journey of being able to help organizations build gender diversity. So welcome, Harpreet. And, Harpreet's joining us from the US, and, she's taken the effort to be able to wake really early to be able to be here with all of us. So thank you for the effort, Harpreet, and the generosity to come forth and share. It is my privilege to be able to introduce Harpreet Guman. She's an executive coach. She's a global consultant and a D&I strategist. She has over 20 years of experience in companies, MNC organizations like Vodafone, Telenor, and also Raymond, to become future ready by transforming their human development strategies. She now runs her own coaching and consulting practice out of the United States. She is basically at this time works for a set of organizations as part of a consulting practice, but she also does work for Howard Business School and helps them facilitate some of their programs. And we're really excited to have Harpreet come in here and talk to us about her gender diversity experiences, gender diversity, the untold story. So over to Harpreet. And I've requested her to try and contain this a bit, but keep your comments going on the chat box and your questions going for Harpreet. And Harpreet will loop back when you're ready to be able to ask you some questions. So over to you.
Jaya, for having me over. It's my pleasure indeed. And hi, everyone. As it says, it's never a good situation to be a last speaker, but I'll try and make it interesting as much as I can. So I'm going to start with the story of two frogs. Some of you would have heard it. There were these two frogs who accidentally fall in the well, and unfortunately, the well is very, very deep. There's a big commotion and panic all around, and all the frogs of the village, they surround the well and they start talking about the pain these two frogs are going through, and they start telling each other that they will never make it because the well is very deep and there is no way that they can really come out of the well. So there's a big panic and commotion going on. At the same time, these two frogs who are inside the deep well, they kept trying and to get out, and they were ignoring the comments and they still kept trying. Time passed by, nothing happened. And one of the frog inside said, you know what, I'm giving up. Don't you hear the others saying that it's very difficult, it's a very deep well, and I don't think we can make it. And he gives up. The other frog, despite listening to this frog and the commotion, he continues. And finally, he gets out of the well. To the surprise of the other frogs around, they said, how did you do it? Didn't you hear from us that it was so difficult, though we were so worried for you and we were very sure that you could make it? He just ignored the comment and he just walked by. Do you know why? The frog was deaf. All this while, he did not hear any negativity, any comment from anyone else. And the other frog who gave up, who could listen, and he succumbed to the pressure. Yes, it was challenging. The well was very deep, but this frog made it. My story is not different than this frog. Let me take you back to my corporate early experience. When I started my career, I was told that there's a glass ceiling, there are these barriers, there are these unconscious biases. I chose not to listen to those people. And I told myself, yes, there's going to be a barrier, there's going to be a hurdle. Whenever I see a hurdle, I'm going to treat it like a problem, find a solution, and never give up. Trust me, there was no looking back. At the same time, I'm not trying to sugarcoat that there is no glass ceiling. I'm not trying to say there is no unconscious bias. I'm not trying to say that things are difficult for women. But let me tell you, these labels, imposter syndrome, or women being assertive or bossy or glass ceiling or glass cliff, they're not helping women either. Everybody is talking about these challenges and the barriers and the glass ceiling, but nobody's talking about the elephant in the room. Any guesses for that? It's the office politics, organization politics, corporate politics. I'm going to pause for a second. And I want to know quickly, if you could type in the chat box 1 or 2 words, what comes to your mind? How do you feel when you hear the word politics? If I could have some responses in the chat box. Toxic, stressful. Okay, maybe we'll wait for bias. So yes, and that's a fact. And the research says insecure. So the research says that most of the women feel that politics is a dirty word. And I'm also reading, it says wastage of time, discriminating, tiring, not a great culture, distracting. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for engaging. And just like you, and just like other women, I too believe that politics is a dirty word. Middle of my career, I started saying it, I can't handle this politics. You know what? This is not me. Fortunately, I had a great mentor who helped me reframe the definition of politics. So what is politics? Wherever there are people, there are conversations, there's a decision need to be taken, there is politics. There is good politics, there is bad politics. Politics done in service of others is a good politics. Politics done in service of yourself is a bad politics. So what is politics? Politics is about having a conversation, including difficult conversations that lead to a decision. But for that, you have to participate in the conversation. If you do not participate in the conversation, decisions would be taken which might not be appreciated by you. And let me tell you, all of us, knowingly or unknowingly, we have been demonstrating political skills during our childhood or in a personal life. Let me take you to a time when you had to influence your dad to help you go out for a night out or for a party or buying a gift or any decision for that you wanted to influence your dad. What did you do? What was the first thing that came to your mind? You asked yourself, who can influence dad? Is it my mom? Is it my sibling? Or is it my dad's friend or his family? And who are the people who are likely to resist my idea and are going to convince the dad? After figuring it out, who are the positive influencers and the negative influencers, what did you do? You actually went to them. You aligned them. You told them about what you want. And before you went to your father, you anticipated, oh, these are the things he's likely to react. And I know what are the facts that I'm going to be presenting. So what was this? Politics is nothing power and influence. How is it different from politics in the organization? So let's go back to the organization now. There's a decision to be made, problem to be solved. You need to identify who is the decision maker, who will have the strongest influence on this person, who can I align with, who is likely to resist my decision or the agenda. If I don't have the power, can I align with someone who has the power and influence the decision maker? So next time when you think that the word politics is dirty, ask yourself, who is it in service of? If it's in service of the organization, teams, people, go ahead. And let me tell you, sometimes you will win and sometimes you will learn. But it's extremely important to navigate the politics and reframe the definition of politics. And now I'm looking forward to engage from people to hear their views and see what's going on. So over to the audience. Any questions, any reactions that come to your mind? And let me tell you, any successful women or a men leader that you will speak, they would have navigated office politics while maintaining their meritocracy and integrity. So politics is not always dirty. Thank you so much. So I'm happy to engage on the questions. Let me look at the chat box. So any questions to me? Would be happy to address.
Now, there seems to be a question in the chat box. There's Amia asking, why do you think it would be a great decision to include diversity and inclusion in the organization?
So, as I said, so the work that we need to be working about, and I didn't want to sugarcoat about the broken systems that we have. It's a complex issue, and it has to be dealt at an organization level. It has to be embedded in the business strategy of the organization. Individually, all of us making steps will not be able to go a long way unless D&I is part of the business strategy. D&I is something which is role modeled by every leader. D&I is something which is demonstrated in every policy. So as I said, it's a systemic issue. It cannot be dealt just by individuals working hard towards it. It has to be embedded. And it is not the case of reducing gender imbalance. It is about a business imperative, which is what we are looking at. We all know that women think differently and men think differently. We're all diverse people. We all bring creativity and different things to the table. So, and the research has said that there has been a revenue increase, more innovation, more creativity, where we have had diverse team having women. So it's not about having numbers. It is about creating diverse experience for the customers who is diverse itself.
Harpreet, do you want to substantiate some of the stuff you spoke about earlier, especially in the context of the kind of challenges women have to navigate? Do you want to share stories around that?
So one challenge is what I feel there are these unconscious biases, there are these struggles. I ask women and I tell myself, yes, I know all these biases are there. Am I willing to wait for things to change around, as it's a broken system issue, right? What is it I can be doing about? One thing which I've seen, especially at the top level, these are not these unconscious biases which stop a woman from advancing. It is about unlocking the power and influence. And let me tell you, we women are very good in building relationships. What we don't do well is leveraging the relationships. We don't leverage them. We don't feel it is right to leverage. And I think these are some things we have to reframe in our own mind, how we are viewing a problem. And next time, whenever you're stuck and you feel a resistance to use someone, ask yourself, who is this in service of? You will not feel guilty. So I think this is one of the key challenges that I see in the senior most level. And across levels, I think we really minimize ourselves. We apologize a lot. We don't talk about our accomplishments. We say we are hardworking, we will work on meritocracy. And let me tell you, I was like that. And I can still tell you that I've lived by my meritocratic principles and I've been known for integrity, but I have been maneuvering and I have never carried my gender to work, though I'm very proud to be who I am. I've dealt with an issue as an issue. So I think there are a few things, and with the premise that I would say, I believe that women don't need fixing while men don't need blaming. There are these broken systems. All of us have to go a long way. So whenever we deal with a problem, which could come out of a gender bias, see it as a problem and do not see it as a gender bias, and see what is that you can do to make it happen, but don't give it up. So for me, I've always believed that change inside you creates a change outside you. I'm not willing to wait for 100 years for patriarchy to go or all these biases to go. And there are these other ordinary women who become extraordinary. How have they navigated the challenges? Yet, yes, there are challenges. I'm not denying that. But I'm sure we can navigate just the way the others have done. And of course, building alliances and network, which is extremely, extremely powerful. As I said, for me, unlocking power influence is the key. There is nothing else that women really need to work on other than really reframing the definition of how we are seeing things in the organization.
Harpreet, there's a question from Pervin, and it's a very important one. She says, interestingly, I have observed often enough that discrimination against women is often from women themselves.
So yes, Pervin, let me tell you, and I fully agree to you, we women don't support women enough. And unfortunately, I've always been supported by men leaders and not by women leaders. While we say we understand each other so much, we are not. We are competing. And that's a very pertinent point. And that is something, which is a very personal cause for me, to get all women to support each other. And we will be unstoppable if we do that. So I think along with the agenda that we're talking about, the unconscious bias, you've spot on. I think what needs to be worked on is how women can create a community to support while these unconscious biases are there. So I hope, Parveen, if that has answered my question. So that was a good observation.
Yeah, there's one more here, which is, unfortunately, there's been an age-old system created where men have, just a second, men have been in the front and women have been left behind. And it's more in the Western world. It's a shame. This is Rudinov Vincent asking you that. He's basically making a statement, actually. He's expressing his opinion. Yes.
So, yes, I echo it. And let me tell you, after having moved to the US, so these dominance is there across. The notches could be different, but patriarchy exists. And there are these unconscious biases which are being felt. So I echo your sentiments. And I'm sure at the same time, as I said, there are these people who are becoming allies and coming along. And I think most important, Pervin, as you said, I think we women need to start supporting each other instead of competing each other.
Okay, any more questions for Harpreet? Harpreet, do you want to say your final stuff? If you still have a couple of minutes, we have 2 or 3 minutes to go. So
I would just answer. I just read a question which I missed. I think somebody said, Bhavna, why do we need politics? So Bhavna, as I said, how I see politics, wherever there are people and a decision has to be taken. Even if you look at the Webster definition of politics, it just means power and influence. It doesn't mean dirty. It doesn't mean manipulation. So when I'm saying use your power and influence for the good, if you can influence someone for the betterment of the organization or for the team, why would you not want to be a part of that conversation? So politics is all about having conversations, difficult conversations, and coming to a decision. I would urge everyone, personal, professional, let's be a part of decision where we feel strongly for the environment, for people, or for diversity, inclusion, or any cause that we are passionate about. So I hope, Bhavna, that's answered your question. And
okay, there aren't any more questions at this time.
Okay.
So if you want to say any closing remarks, you can say that, and then maybe we'll try and close out the session for everyone. So
thank you, everyone. And all I would say that it's time that we need to reframe the definition of politics. I think each one of you in the audience, women and men participants that we have, all of us can create a decision, and let's not refrain ourselves from not participating and depriving of a good decision. So thank you so much.
Okay, lovely. Thank you, Harpreet, for having joined us from the US, and thank you for your insights and sharing them with the group. Harpreet was talking about gender diversity stories, and she picked the element on office politics. Of course, this is a much wider topic, and maybe another time some more. But with that, thank you, Harpreet, for your time today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us in today. We had wonderfully inspiring stories being shared around specially able diversities. And here is one more personal story that Harpreet was essentially wanted to share. And I'm glad that she kind of came in on board and at least opened up a dialogue around some of the impediments that she's experienced in her own journey. So I think with that, thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming in. We'll keep the diversity inclusion stories going. And for all of you who stayed till the end to hear Harpreet, thank you very much for your generosity. Remember, diversity and balance hiring, reach out to us. If you want to be able to get help, to be able to find diverse talent, we're more than happy to be able to help you. Watch this space for more. We have more diversity inclusion stories coming in. And, I'm sure this is going to be a space to be able to learn from. Thank you for your spirit of wanting to learn. Thank you for spending your time with us today. And we look forward to more diversity inclusion stories. Watch the space for some more exciting stuff coming from the stable of the Women Leadership Forum of Asia. For now, we sign off and thank all of you for being here. Have a great evening and see you at the next masterclass. Take care, everybody. Thank you. Bye-bye.